Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Kaido Kikulu here in Lagos. But first, the big political stories making the rounds at this hour. For the ruling All Progressives Congress and the opposition party wield big sticks at the state level, with the APC suspending former House of Reps member and others in Kebbi State, while the Labour Party struck in Lagos. An INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, promises electoral reforms before the 2027 general elections as his tenure gradually comes to an end this year. And in a brazen early morning assault, suspected Boko Haram terrorists are reported to have attacked the base of the Nigerian army in Marte local government area of Borno State. Some soldiers feared dead. We'll begin with security. Suspected Boko Haram insurgents on Monday launched a deadly pre-dawn assault on a Nigerian army base in Marte local government area of Borno State in northeast Nigeria, killing several soldiers and capturing others, according to reports. Well, the attack, which occurred around 3 a.m. at the forward operating base of the 153 Task Force Battalion, reportedly led to the fall of Marte to Islamic State West Africa Province fighters, that's ISWAP, while armored vehicles were torched and weapons looted. The pressure from the attack has caused the troops to retreat to Dikwa, where they regrouped at the 24 Task Force Brigade. In a separate but equally tragic incident, 2 staff members of the Damboa Local Government Education Authority, Blessed Luka and Peterleaf Gideon, were killed when their vehicle hit a landmine along the volatile Maiduguri-Damboa B Road. The victims were en route to Maiduguri to sit for the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria examination. Sadly, met a fatal end. Senator Ali Ndume, who represents the affected district, expressed outrage over the renewed violence, urging the federal government to urgently equip and empower the military. And now to politics as we keep track of a security development in Borno State. The All Progressives Congress in Kebbi State has suspended a former member of the House of Representatives for Koko Mayama Federal Constituency, Mohammed Shehu Koko, along with 9 party officials in Koko local government area. Among those suspended are Mohammed Danyedo, the APC vice chairman of Koko local government area, Biamina Mohammed, the secretary, and Talatu Zoro, who is the women leader. According to a suspension letter obtained by Channels Television, the action was taken due to alleged anti-party activities, disloyalty, and what was described as harassment of the party's executive members. The letter was jointly signed by the APC local government party chairman, Mohammed Meibarga, the local government executive chairman, Sergio Usman Koko, and 14 others, that's stakeholders of the party. However, close associates of the former lawmaker hinted that the suspension may be linked to his reported intention to contest for a senatorial seat, which has allegedly unsettled certain influential figures within the APC in Kebbi State. Speaking of suspensions, earlier in the week, the Lagos State chapter of the Labour Party had announced the suspension of a former state chairman of the party, Pasadaya Ekong and Sam Okpala, over alleged gross misconduct and breach of the party's constitution. And the party also dissolved all the state's local government ward executive committees. And this was made in a statement which was signed by the state's caretaker committee of the party, headed by Rotimi Odunaike and the secretary Dorcas Omordian. Now to the opposition party at the national level. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, appears to be re-strategizing to regain dominance come 2027, as 7 governors, former governors, and members of the party's board of trustees met separately in Abuja. The chairman of the Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed, had told journalists after a closed-door meeting with former governors that the forum has appointed former president of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, to lead the reconciliation of the group members. And after that meeting, the BOT also met.
We are here with all the governors elected under the party that are still in the party, and a substantial number of former PDP governors, with our leader, the chairman of the party, and some members of the National Working Committee. We discussed some of the issues relating to our party, some existential issues, of course, that have been around in the media, within us, so that we'll be able to navigate smoothly to INEC that is scheduled to take place on the 27th of this month. And by August, we will have an early convention. So many issues and franctos have been made, and it is an opportunity to close rank and to make sure that at least there is no ill feelings, there are no qualms, there are no misgivings between the leaders of the party. Governors of the party have reached out to our colleagues who have been there before, who have more experience, and who know so much in a way and manner that whatever suggestions or opinion they may have would go a long way in giving an added impetus. And in doing so, there are some missing gaps here and there. We set up a committee of 7, headed by His Excellency, the former Senate President, and of course, former Governor of Kwara State, to meet so that at least quick reconciliation and reach out will be made in such a manner that we will have a very rancor-free and harmonious INEC and convention.
Well, as the political parties prepare towards 2027, well, let's check in with the electoral umpire. Well, INEC has forwarded 142 recommendations to the National Assembly for consideration based on its review of the 2023 general election. The chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, disclosed this during an interview with State House correspondents shortly after President Bola Tinubu swore in 2 newly appointed commissioners of INEC and 2 new members of the Board of Code of Conduct Bureau on the sidelines of the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Council Chamber of the State House, Abuja. He also dismissed speculations about his tenure as INEC chairman.
We have been interfacing with the National Assembly. 2 weeks ago, we had a retreat in Lagos with the Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives on electoral reform. Thereafter, the National Assembly is going to organize a public hearing, and it's after the public hearing that now a new bill will at the end of the day be submitted to the President for assent. So we're working with the National Assembly on electoral reform. But at this point, I'm not going to give you any more details. You will hear it from the National Assembly whose responsibility it is. But we reviewed the 2023 general elections on our own. We engaged with the stakeholders. We came up with 142 recommendations. Out of these 142 recommendations, 8 require constitutional or electoral act amendment. And we discussed this with members of the National Assembly. So far, so good. We are happy with our discussions with them, and we are also happy with the speed with which they want to proceed, so that we'll have some necessary amendments done to the Electoral Act ahead of the 2027 general elections. As far as the law is concerned, and as far as I'm aware, I remain the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, and under the Constitution, the Chief Electoral Commissioner of the Federation, and under the Electoral Act, the returning officer for the presidential election.
Well, in the build-up to the 2027 general elections, there are states that do not prepare for governorship elections, at least with other states or majority of the states in Nigeria. Now, these states will experience what we call off-cycle elections. And one of those states is Anambra State, which is preparing for its governorship election come November the 8th, 2025. And that's just less than 6 months to go. So in our continuous coverage of the political situation across the country, particularly as Anambra State prepares towards the governorship election, we are joined by someone from the state, Mr. Anselm Onora, as well, former chairman, Anambra East Local Government Area, is also secretary of APGA Digital Registration Committee. He joins us virtually on the program from Oka this afternoon. You're welcome to Lunchtime Politics, Mr. Onora.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure having you.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I know that there's a lot of activities in the build-up to the election. I think one of the wins for Governor Soludo would be President Bola Tinubu visiting just days ago. And I imagine that must have been a major shot in the arm for the governor. But let's speak to some of the things that people will vote based on in Anambra State. Yes, that is a big win, but when it comes to infrastructure, security, and the economy, well, this is what really matters to the people of the state. And I just want to speak to what a chieftain in the APC said about the government of Professor Chukwuma Soludo, saying that, and this is from Mr. Valentine Ozigbo, which I'm sure you're familiar with. He says that Governor Soludo's record is a glaring theater of missed priorities, misplaced ambitions, and media optics masquerading as progress. I don't know if you've come across that statement, but this presents you an opportunity to respond to that.
Yes, yes, I think I came across that on this S handles a few days ago, and for me, it's like someone who is not in touch with reality. Of course, Val Ozigbo, of course, we know him. But for someone like him to say that what is happening in Anambra is not actually a big transformation, I don't know where that is coming from, and it's a laughing matter for me. Because if you look at what the present government, led by Charles Chukwuma Soludo, has done since he came into office, it's a big transformation. And you look at road constructions, the infrastructure is providing. You look at the healthcare services is provided. If you look at the security that has improved since he came into power, and when you say all those things, and you'll be thinking it's someone who has been into power for years, but he just barely 3 years in office. Soludo has awarded over 700 kilometers of road with over 450 completed. Soludo has also provided 5 brand new general hospitals in Anambra, in places where they were not before. Not renovation, 5 new brand general hospitals. He has also employed teachers, 8,115 teachers employed within 3 years. 1,000 healthcare staff employed within 3 years. Over 450 kilometers of road completed, asphalted. The first city has done that Mr. President came to commission. The new government house, people say government house, but I call it a city within a city, because you need to see what Mr. Governor has done. For anybody who is politically aware to say that Mr. Governor is masquerading, I think we need to either probably call a psychologist for that person, because it's not reality on ground. The fact is that Governor Chukwuma Soludo has done very well, and the Anambra people are happy. And as a journalist, and also we are following the trend of what is happening in Anambra. You talk of Oboko, the transformation he brought in Oboko. The pipe-borne water, these are what some of us did experience, but under Charles Chukwuma Soludo, we're beginning to see pipe-borne water running in our streets and our houses. So for someone like Val, I think something is wrong somewhere.
Well, let's take a look at some of the points he made, and I'd like you to speak to the data regarding these issues. So he says that, well, yes, the governor may be focusing on cutting ribbon, some of these projects which you mentioned, and he described them as image-lifting ventures, while fundamental issues like public housing, unemployment, and insecurity remain unresolved. So let's speak to those 3 points. Let's start with public housing, which I know is also vital. Speak to us about the work the governor has done regarding that. Unemployment as well. And then we can talk about insecurity, which is a major issue. But let's start with public housing and unemployment.
Yes, in terms of public, the Ministry of Housing in Anambra State, as we speak, are developing 2 big estates for public use. The Liberation Estate that is located in Oka, Anambra State. So for people to talk about infrastructure and say negative things about the current government, that means, because that's where Mr. Governor has scored A. So for public housing, is an area Mr. Governor has paid serious attention since he came into office, and the Ministry of Housing is doing a lot in that area, and there's a lot of estates that present government is developing for public use. And you talk of the insecurity, which was the last you mentioned, but let me talk about it briefly, because during Mr. Governor's campaign, there were 7 local governments that they were not able to go for campaign. But today, those local governments, they are recovered, and people are going about their normal businesses, including the values of most local governments. We were taken by hoodlums before the elections. And you saw what Mr. Governor did, the launch of Operation Udogachi, that he launched immediately he came in. Now, before he came in, remember on his day of inauguration, he offered amnesty to these criminal gangs that are masquerading in the name of agitation and whatever IPOB. He offered them amnesty. That's, if you must achieve what we are talking about, it must be by dialogue, not by taking up arms. By then, you know, there was persons who had sentiments for these guys. Even within the political circle, there were people who were claiming they were fighting for freedom, calling them all sorts of names. But when it became done on them that these guys are a bunch of criminals, they started also recording on government. And Mr. Governor took it upon himself to launch Operation Udogachi, which is a joint security effort between the army, the navy, the police, the civil defense, and the local vigilante. And we see massive result that is happening in Anambra State, that today people can go around the whole local government without any fear of being kidnapped or any criminal elements. Of course, for every state, there must be a pocket of criminal gang moving around, but at this particular point in time, it was a far, far below what it was when Mr. Governor came into power. And for people to be politicizing insecurity at this point in time is something I cannot even understand. Then he talked about the things he has built, that he said is, I don't know what they called it, the new government house. For 33 years, my brother, Anambra State government has been on a rented place. What type of government is that? And that's what Mr. Governor has done. And when you talk about this, Mr. President came on 8th of May to commission it. That's about 1,148 days in office of Mr. Governor, and he was able to do the new government house, was able to do the Fun City, was able to do over 450 kilometers of road,
right,
that dualized, and somebody is there arguing that Mr. Governor is not doing anything. So,
and that's also another point.
Argument, I don't think it's something that we want our time discussing.
Well, these are valid points. Aside the fact that he is a citizen of the state, is a political leader. I mean, these are valid points that have been raised. And, you know, on the issue of security, the fact that 1,500 NSCDC operatives were deployed to the state for the president's visits, lots of police officers, military and all, is also a testament for some people. That kind of deployment usually happens when we have major events, just to keep, security, ensure that the place is safe. So why deploy that much if Anambra State is safe? On the one hand. On the other hand is the talk around Aguna Chamber, people who, I know that someone from government said that it's been infiltrated by hoodlums, but that's also been another concern, seeing those masquerading as Aguna Chamber operatives, harassing people, robbing people, wielding firearms and the rest. So those are security points that were made to buttress the point.
Yes, so first, I wouldn't want to talk for security agencies, but for Mr. President visiting the state, I know the security agencies have the apparatus of which they deploy personnel to guide Mr. President and other citizens that are coming, because, of course, it's not only Mr. President that came, he came a handful of well-meaning Nigerians and governors. So for security reasons, they could deploy such things, but we have also seen where such numbers were deployed in different other states for Mr. President visit or some VVIP personality visit. But to say that Anambra State, because we have to put it on the desk, where were we before Mr. Governor came into power? And as of today, has there been a major improvement? My brother, the answer is crystal clear. There has been a major improvement from where we were. The launch of Operation Dogati and what people are complaining about, of course, I wouldn't want to remove the fact that there could be pocket of abuse somewhere, which is what we are still working on to see that most of those things people complain about, if actually that happened, that there's monitoring and there's feedback mechanism to see how these guys are operating. But they are working in tandem with the police, the Nigerian army, who supervises their operations. Even Nigerian army has been accused in many cases where they will go for operation. Even people will come and accuse them, and when you verify, they will not be able to come out with substantial evidence. So, but these guys, you can't say because people come sit back and complain to allow them to allow hoodlums to take over our streets, take over our local government. It cannot happen. We cannot chicken to that. So people who are complaining, yes, if there's a genuine case, we isolate them and treat such instances. But for them to generalize that the launch of Operation Udogachi and the Agunde Chamber team that are using their powers and to use it as a yardstick to say that they're not doing anything is not true.
All right. Mr. Onora, we'll take a quick break now. And when we return, we'll wind down on this conversation because I know that the goal is the coming election. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead demands peak performance.
Welcome back. We're still talking politics, particularly in Anambra State in the build-up to the November 8th governorship election, where Professor Soludo is seeking re-election. We still have with us Mr. Anselm Onora, former chairman, Anambra East Local Government Area, secretary of APGA Digital Registration Committee. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Onora. One of the other points made, and this talks about use of resources, allocation of resources. There's a lot of buzz around the Fun City, and I'm sure you've caught some of those questions asked around the Fun City project. And people look, for example, at the education sector. We look at the recent performance, for example, from, let's say, NECO, and seeing that all the states in the Southeast, or at least 3 states in the Southeast, did quite well. And I'm talking Abia, Imo, Ebonyi, scoring 80+% in terms of 5 credits and above, including maths and English. And they expected Anambra states to be on that list, seeing that the Southeast was taking a chunk of it. But Anambra State was nowhere to be found. So people are saying, what is the essence of the Fun City, for example? What is the government doing regarding education?
Okay, I think I lost some part of the question, but if I take part of the things I heard when we connected, what the government is doing about education in Anambra State, right?
Yeah, and well, resource allocation. Why Fun City? I hope we're not leaving education and other important aspects out.
Not at all. The government is not leaving education. In fact, if there is can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Please go ahead. Okay, well, not anymore. Looks like the connection froze on us. But Mr. Onora, if you can hear me, please go ahead with your response.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes.
I'm saying that the government is doing a lot in terms of education. And if you really understand the psychology of human beings, also know the Fun City is also part of education, but I'll come to that later on. I did mention earlier that when Professor Charles Soludo came in, he employed over 8,000 teachers to our public and private owned schools. When I say private, that is those owned by mission and those run by the government. These were efforts made to end era of schools without teachers. And you could imagine for more than 8 years, there has not been such employment in the education system, and people were retiring. And you heard of the PTA teachers, but the governor came immediately and employed 8,115 teachers to end that era so that the ratio of teachers to students could be reduced. And those employment were made on merit base, not by nationality, not by state of origin, but by a merit base. So by human capital development, Mr. Governor has invested much, because you can't talk of infrastructure in education without quality teachers. And these teachers are going on to continuous trainings by the ASBEB, by the PPSSA for those in primary and those in secondary school. And in terms of infrastructure, Mr. Governor is building 22 smart schools across the 21 local governments in Anambra State. So it's a huge investment in education. And if you look at Anambra State, so Anambra has been rising in terms of education, but we have not seen it this far since Governor Soludo came into power. I'm not talking because I'm part of the system, but I'm telling you, this is a reality people are seeing. That someone employed 8,115 within 3 years in office is a fact that you don't need to argue about. You don't need to belong to for you to accept that this is a huge investment in education. And you talk about the fun city. Anambra is one of the states where children don't have recreation center, and recreation is part of education. So it's investing in education and also investing in psychological development of the people, because you see, people work in Anambra and go out on weekends somewhere to enjoy. And that's what Mr. Governor has done. And he has not affected any of investments. Remember, all these things he has reviewed, he has not borrowed one kobo. So for people to argue that it's not that why the fun city, why not this? But the fact that has he obstructed anything he's doing? The answer is no. He's investing in road, he's investing in education, he's investing in infrastructure, he's investing in health. I did mention earlier that he built 5 new hospitals.
Well, Ms. Honora,
indeed
you mentioned, at the end of the day, it will be the choice.
These are investments he's doing.
Indeed, but at the end of the day, it will be the choice of the people of Anambra State. So you've laid your facts. It's not left to the people to make their decision come November the 8th. But we have to thank you so much for your time, for contributions as well. We'll be speaking with Mr. Anselmo Nora, a former chairman, Anambra East Local Government Area, and Secretary of APGA Digital Registration Committee, joining us from Awka virtually. Thank you for your time once again.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Well, you've been served on the show this afternoon. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Soludo. Stay with Channels Television for all your breaking and political stories. Goodbye.